The ongoing diplomatic tussle has also meant that the trade negotiations between India and Canada have taken a distinctive hit. Meanwhile, India is on board the IPEF, which is the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, which is part of the Indo-Pacific strategy of the US, but is yet to be on board the fourth pillar, that is with regards to trade. To talk about all these issues, because Canada also has a distinctive Indo-Pacific strategy now, of which India was a part, and because of which the trade negotiations had started in 2022, which have now been paused. I have with me the USISPF, that is the US-India Strategic Partnership Forum's head, Mukesh Aghi. Dr. Aghi, many thanks for speaking with NDTV. My first question is with regards to the IPEF itself. Now, India is part of it, but still not on board completely because of the fourth pillar that it is yet to, in fact, give its clearance for. Where do you see the IPEF going, and what is the future of this sort of coming together?
Well, the answer is yes. I think India has agreed on 3 pillars, is trying to sort out the fourth one, but we are seeing a trend happening on the other 3 pillars. You have to understand the benefit India gets, especially with China plus one strategy, where countries are looking to basically de-risk their supply chain with China. India is one of the biggest beneficiary, and IPF really helps India to basically move a lot of these companies into the Indian environment. So the answer is yes. It has picked up the momentum, and I believe that as time goes by, you will see more and more activities taking place on IPEF.
Now, India and the US have in fact been trying to settle some of the outstanding issues outside of the WTO. They have wrapped up with the 6th negotiation between the two sides, the compromise that both sides have reached on the issue. With this, are we likely to see some improvement, further improvement in the trade ties? What about issues like tariff? And what about the GSP status to India? Or is it a non-issue now?
Well, we had 6 outstanding cases between the 2 countries in WTO, and all 6 have been settled between the 2 countries. We are seeing India lowering tariffs on a lot of US goods, and US lowering tariffs on Indian goods. So I think that is a goodwill gesture on both countries' part to basically revive and accelerate the process of trade between the 2 countries. So that's moving well. As far as GSP goes, I think that's a non-issue. India would like to get GSP restored, but you have to understand most of the categories of the goods under GSP from India, they are the fastest growing exports coming into the US. So I think if GSP is restored, yes, that's beneficial. And if it's not restored, I think it's not an outstanding issue.
Let's turn our attention now to the India-Canada ties. It's been going through a phase of friction. Where do you see these ties headed, especially because we have seen that the trade negotiations have also been paused?
Well, you have to understand, you have a prime minister of a country going to a parliament and labeling allegation against another sovereign nation. That shows the intent is not to sort the issue out. The intent is more local, political intent to get the vote bank of the local Sikh community. And so unless we have the right intent to sort the issue out, I think this will keep on moving in the right direction. Will keep on escalating. But what we saw that Prime Minister Trudeau's statement in New York a couple of days ago, saying that we will move in the right direction. Obviously, he has not provided any evidence to the Indian authorities. But from the U.S. perspective, I think U.S. is trying to calm both sides down. And I think we have seen de-escalation happening. You have to understand, India's relation with U.S. is not just purely on principle. It is also based on strategic interest. And that strategic interest is China. So, yes, the U.S. will talk about it if there's evidence that India did go ahead and executed the terrorists in Canada. But overall, I feel that the impact is very minimal. Both sides are working. In fact, Indian troops today have come into Alaska for joint exercise. So I see the impact very minimal.
But where do you see this all going? There is a pause now on trade negotiations that only started after a long gap between the two sides. Are things likely to improve, to get better as far as at least trade issues are concerned, or is the friction over the issue of Khalistan likely to take a big hit on that as well?
Well, from a national interest perspective, it is important that we de-escalate the whole issue. Don't let local politics play into this relationship. The trade between India and Canada is around $8 billion. India can basically move a lot of this stuff to other geographies. You also have to understand we have around 230,000 Indian students studying, making almost 40% of the international student body in Canada. And that's a source of billions of dollars in revenue. We are seeing a lot of them postponing their trip. We are seeing a lot of them re-looking at if they want to move to US, Australia, or UK. So I think it has gone beyond the trade. And it's important that we de-escalate this and focus on what's good for both countries rather than bringing local politics into the play.
My final question is with regards to the UNGA. Are we looking at the issue of Ukraine, Russia coming up again, considering that the war is not yet over? We have seen the effects of that over the last 1 year, more than 1 year now. And also, for instance, something like China and its growing aggression.
So the sentiment in the UN this week has been more on climate. It has been more focused on how do you finance the climate transition. Yes, you do talk about Ukraine, but I think the discussion on Ukraine seems to be fading away because in the US you have certain Republicans who are very keen not to give any more funding to Ukraine. What we are seeing is also this war is going to get prolonged much longer. And how much can you sustain funding Ukraine itself? So I think Ukraine was not a big topic. China, yes, Chinese economy was a big issue because it does have an impact in global environment. So I would say the two main topics we saw, which were discussed between the UN and outside UN, was climate and the global economy itself.
Dr. Aghi, thanks for speaking with NDTV.